I'll open a text compare session using a saved session. The text compare view displays files in two editor panes that scroll together. By default, the panes are placed side by side. The name of the file being compared on the left side is defined here. The one on the right is defined here. File information is shown below the file names. Colors are used to indicate comparison results. By default, lines with important differences have a red background. Lines with unimportant differences have an orange background. Lines without any difference will have a white background. Cross-hatching represents lines that are missing from a file. Let me scroll to the end of the file. After the last line of the files, there is double cross-hatching. Text that is part of an important difference is colored red. Text that is part of an unimportant difference is colored orange. Text that is not part of a difference is colored black. On lines without differences, text may be syntax highlighted. On the View menu, I'll click Visible White Space. That will identify differences in tabs and spaces. On the left edge of the display is the optional Thumbnail view. You can toggle the thumbnail view on by using the View menu, Thumbnail off, View menu, Thumbnail on. The thumbnail shows a condensed view of the comparison line results. The small blue arrow indicates the current selected line. If I click on a different line, notice how the arrow changes to view different locations of comparisons. You can drag the thumbnail down In addition to scrolling the thumbnail, you can also just click on a section, and that will display the area you clicked on. The small rectangle defines the lines that are currently in view. Again, if you scroll, you'll display the lines that fall within the rectangle. At the bottom of the display is the Details panel. It shows an over-under alignment of the currently selected line. The Details panel will display if View Text Details is selected. Whenever you select the line, the over-under display will refresh to indicate this new selected line. The overall results of the comparison is documented in the lower left corner. Here, the comparison has identified 21 different sections of Compare that have differences. To change the file being compared in the left side, I'll open left side's Open File button and I'll select a different file. Click Open. To change the file being compared on the right side, I'll open the drop-down next to the Open File button. I'll select Open File using Profile. I'm going to browse and then select FTP Profile. This time, I'll enter ftpmicrosoft.com. Then I'll click Connect and browse. I'll open the tree. Select Desktop App, open that tree. DOS Word, OK, and I'll choose the readme.txt file. OK, to return to the original files we were comparing, I'll pick them from the File Name drop-down. To close the text compare, click the Home Toolbar button. File comparisons are controlled by file formats and rules. File formats are settings that are associated with a file mask. For example, there is a built-in Visual Basic source file format that is associated with Visual Basic files. By default, file sessions automatically figure out which file formats to use. The file formats in use by each side is listed in the File Information panel. In this case, both are Visual Basic source. I'll open the Format toolbar button's drop-down and choose everything else. Notice that there's no longer syntax highlighting on either side. That is because, unlike Visual Basic Source, everything else does not define a grammar. In the File Format drop-down, I'll select Detected to restore detection of Visual Basic Source. Once again, syntax highlighting has been restored. I'll open the Left Files Encoding drop-down and pick Unicode. Notice that the left side is no longer readable. That's because Unicode is the wrong format. Once again, I'll select Don't Override. That restores detection of Visual Basic Source. Rules are settings for the entire comparison and are dependent on the formats in use. I'll click the Rules Toolbar button. And in the Grammar Element selection, I'll unselect Identifier and click OK. Notice that many differences are now unimportant. I can control which lines in the comparison are visible. To hide lines without differences, click the Show Differences toolbar button. Clicking the Minor toolbar button will hide lines with unimportant differences. I'll click Show All. Notice that lines that have unimportant differences are shown as if they have no differences at all. I'll click the Minor toolbar button again to turn it off. I'll click Show Differences again. Clicking the Contacts toolbar button will show lines immediately before and after differences. I'll click Contacts again to turn it off. Clicking an Expand Filter Gap button will display a range of lines that don't match the current filter. Clicking the Expand Filter Gap button again will hide those lines. I'll click Show All again. The Text Compare allows me to selectively reconcile differences. Note that the cursor is currently at the beginning of a left document. I'll click Ctrl-N to advance to the next different section. A different section is a range of contiguous lines with differences. The line in the gutter indicates the scope of the section. I'll press Ctrl-R to copy this different section to the right. Notice that the lines have been added to the right side and the difference coloring has disappeared. I'll press Ctrl-N. To keep this line on the left, I'll press Ctrl-N again. I'll press Ctrl-Shift-L to copy the blank line from the right. Notice that this deleted the line that was currently displayed, and the other lines on the left side were shifted up. I'll press Ctrl-N. Next, I'll edit this line. I'll press Shift-Down arrow several times. And then Ctrl-R to copy the line selected. I'll right-click on the next different section. To ignore this section, I'll right-click and select Ignore. Notice how the difference coloration has disappeared. To restore that, I'll right-click again and click Ignore it again. Notice the yellow line in the gutter. The yellow line indicates the lines in the compare that have been edited. In this case, a copy from one side to the other. I'll press Ctrl-S to save the changes. Notice that the gutter line has now turned green. In this view of the text compare, I'm going to manually align two lines. Specifically, I'm going to align this line with this line here. To do that, I'll click on the line. Right-click Align With. Notice the teal line in the gutter, and then notice the question mark. I'll click on this line here. Notice how the line was moved down to be aligned with this one.